This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Not everyone behaves the same way and reacts the same way. And it is not fun to not have days where you don't feel like doing anything. It really does take a toll, even though it's like a gradual toll typically. But how you start to live your life is a lot different. And like even my friends that don't have this, they can't relate to what I'm going through. Again, they think that I look fine and, I'm having a little bout. Like it's hard to explain to someone really what you're going through unless they either understand you because they've gone through it or they're a medical provider that does have more knowledge about it and see patients with it. Hey, beautiful soul, and welcome to Dear Body, I'm Listening, the podcast for women navigating chronic symptoms, invisible illness, and that daily dance between hope and exhaustion. If you've ever been told it's all in your head, well, this podcast is for you because your body is not lying and neither are you. Hi, I'm Donna Piper, movement therapist, Pilates instructor, and chronic illness navigator. After years of being dismissed, misdiagnosed, and doing everything quote unquote right, but still getting sicker, I created this space to tell our truth. Here we talk about swelling, brain fog, nervous system crashes, and the kind of symptoms that don't always show up on lab results. We're going to explore lymph, breath, movement, self-trust, latest research, books, relationships, basically everything. All from a place of compassion and honesty. This isn't about fixing your body. It's about finally being heard and getting some answers. Hi, everyone. So what is MCAS and why do I look 6 months pregnant by lunch? Have you ever ate anything and got really bloated or your stomach hurt? Or have you ever even heard of Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, which is MCAS? So if not, you're in the right place. And, if you're running on 30% and pretending like you're running on 100%, well, welcome. You are not alone. And again, you are in the right place here. So let's get into this real talk recap. So let me take you back to November 15th, 2023. That's the first time I've ever heard of Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, let alone knowing what it was. And I have been to functional doctors for the last 15 years about stomach problems. And I'm in the health and fitness world. So I thought I pretty much knew everything was out there. And this was new to me. Low histamine, no histamine, histamine diets, all that. Like, how did I miss that whole segment of buzzwords? But I did. So once it was explained to me what it was and why I was bloated all the time and I looked pregnant after eating super healthy foods, again, I would start my day with like some sweet potato and some eggs and some good fats and some sauces and a well-balanced meal. And then I started to blow up. And then by lunch, if I had a salad, then I'd even get bigger. So I was having really good items, but I was eating fermented food. I was eating olives. I was, all the good fats. Sauerkraut, kombucha, things from a can. I would eat tuna fish because that was easy. I could make like a really nice salad niçoise. And again, all of these things, I kept on like stomach hurting all the time. And it would hurt and blow up really big whether I went out to eat or ate at home. And I was continuing to have brain fog. I was continuing to be super tired, not knowing what to say. The words weren't formulating, being in a lot of pain, waking up tired, feeling some sort of like itchy or rash. Like I don't get a ton of that, but it was a little bit like my skin would be itchier. My nose would be runny after. And I never put any of the stuff together at all that I was allergic to anything. I knew I've had also tons of food tests. So I was like, of course that would come up. But the only thing it came up that I was allergic to was gluten and soy. And gluten is a big one for our lipedema. Typically, women that have lipedema for whatever reason are allergic to gluten, and gluten's not good. So there's lots of different schools of thought. That's for other podcasts, but let's get back to what mast cell activation syndrome is. And since I'd been dealing with the severe bloating for years, and I'm not exaggerating, for decades, after going to all these doctors, the doctors never told me anything. I had already spent thousands of dollars on this, and they thought maybe it was SIBO or gut biosis or stress or not really sure what. And they'd give me all these medications to take. And really, there were supplements to help, or maybe it was parasites. So I did like probably 4 parasite cleanses, which probably in retrospect wasn't the best for all the system, like having this. Not knowing what this was, I think everything I did to try to help it actually made it worse. And I was still eating really clean. And so when I looked up, I got the list of foods that were high in histamine, or they either were high in histamine or they activated the histamine or they blocked the DAO, which are all like foreign terms, I'm sure, unless you know, you've done your own research. Every single food on that list that was healthy, and they were all healthy, I was eating them all every day for decades. So really, I was just poisoning my body with every bite I took. And had definitely no idea that my mast cells were such a part of the immune system and they were in full revolt. So what did I learn? So let's get lymphatic. So what is MCAS? MCAS stands for Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. And the mast cells, what they do, they're supposed to help your body detect danger and release protective chemicals like histamine. So histamine is something that your body needs. It's a defense. And it's like microseconds that this happens. It doesn't take a while. They're like actively, instantly there. And there's lots of different mast cells for different reasons. Like if you look at the charts and to any sort of scientific research, there's like lots of different mast cells and they do lots of different things. But the ones that I have issues with, they create a lot of histamines. So all the time, just flooding my body. So when that happens and your body starts to, that becomes the autoimmune issue, then your body's kind of attacking itself because there's so much and it's trying to get rid of it. So it's attacking that. So it's like this endless cycle. And then when I'm eating things that seem harmless, like good, healthy foods, that activates it. Then fragrances might come in, that activates it. Temperature changes outside. So everything is a threat. So my body is in a constant threat. So your body is pulling the fire alarm constantly every time you eat like a salad or walk past something that smells fragrant or wear the wrong fabric maybe or use the wrong detergent or who knows what. And it's an experiment. So when I say who knows what, it really depends on what happens to you because there's some general rules out there. However, like all of these other diseases I'm talking about, all these other illnesses and conditions, it's an experiment. So not everyone behaves the same way and reacts the same way. There's some general, and you have to trial and error, trial and error. So I think it's freaking exhausting. But that's me. And some days my brain can be wired for figuring stuff out. But, a lot of times, like I forget or I start tracking and then something else happens. I have a really bad flare day and I forget to track. And so, or I forget that, or maybe I'm having a lot of energy. So I'm doing something else. So I forget. So the consistency, because of how this is affecting me neurologically with my mind, with my memory, with my mood, with my energy, sometimes it really, all of these systems that I put in place don't always work because I don't have the energy to work them. And that is for me and maybe someone else out there relates to this, and that's why I'm talking about it, is like that's normal. It's not going to be just as easy as like cut out these foods and you'll start feeling better. I did, once I cut out the big list of foods, I did start feeling better, but I'm nowhere in the journey where I'm healed or I'm on the other side. I am in the thick of it every day, and some days are better than others. So let's get into some of the symptoms of MCAS, or they also call it MCAD, or you can have histamine intolerance. There's lots of fancy words, but basically, this is what happens in your body if you have some sort of histamine reaction. You might flush or overheat after eating. Like if you eat something and your face turns red, or if you just get really hot, that's typically histamine. You have a belly blow, hives, runny nose, especially. So that's something that I really know. Like, and that's the other thing. Even if you find some foods that work for you, you can also somehow be allergic, because sometimes it takes 3 days for you to know what you're allergic to. And that's the other thing that makes it difficult, because if I eat something today and I feel, oh, I'm eating, it feels fine, it may not have a reaction for 72 hours. Or the next time I eat it, I might get like a runny nose. And runny nose is a big thing. That's a really easy one. If I know like my nose starts running immediately after I eat, I'm like, oh, there's something in here that I didn't know, or I'm allergic to a filler, maybe something that I thought I eliminated, or there's a fragrance, or there's something else. There's something else going on. So runny nose is a big one, especially for me now that I know to be aware of it. If I eat anything, like if we do go out to eat and I think I picked something clean and I eat, my nose starts immediately running. I'm like, oh, there's something in there that is not reacting well with me and is giving me a histamine reaction. Also, dizziness, heart racing, and lightheadedness, brain fog, anxiety is a big one. So a lot of people that have a lot of anxiety, sometimes it's just you have too much histamine in your body and it's giving you an anxiety reaction. Or it could be sudden fatigue, where that's a big thing with crashes with MCAS, is that you have a lot of energy and then you just can't get up. And so people do, if you have this, because it's not like, oh, I'm taking a nap or I'm tired. It's like you literally have to lay down. Like it's not just you're tired, it's like fatigue. And then there's food sensitivities that could keep expanding. You could have trouble with sleeping. You could feel wired but tired. And then you'll have reactions to a lot of things like wine, vinegar, chocolate, fermented food, leftovers, eating out, foods in a can. I'll link to a few of the websites you can look at to see about histamine reaction and some of the foods that are highly likely to have high histamine or cause histamine reactions. So after all that, like I'm exhausted just talking about it, right? I'm sure you're exhausted or overwhelmed if you're hearing this for the first time. Because honestly, MCAS can make you feel like you're allergic just to life, to everything, and trying to figure out what the real triggers are, or if you just need to be away from those foods for a certain amount of time. So I spent decades putting all of these like really good foods that also have high histamine or create histamine reactions in my body. So it might take me several years to kind of get my body calmed down from putting it in, just pouring and pouring like gasoline on the fire constantly. So it might just take a while for it to stop smoldering. And we'll just have to see. And it changes all the time. So it does get frustrating to worry and think about what kind of food I can have and how long has food been left out on the counter. The best thing for MCAS is to go frozen meat into a not a crock pot, because slow cooking is not good, into an Instapot or an air fryer, so you don't defrost it in the meantime. Because the more your food stays out, vegetables, anything that's longer it is like in that dying phase, easiest thing, the more histamines it has. So that's why aged cheeses, cured meat, things like that taste good, but they've been out and exposed. They have more histamines in it because they're older. So, and everyone, like I said, it's trial and error, but there are some guidelines out there. There's a link to a book that I got that's like this little histamine pamphlet that this couple went through, and they tried to like rate foods to make it helpful. And then you can write in this book if you have allergies to it or not. And you would think like, oh, you would remember, but like when you have all this stuff going on, your memory goes, you have this brain fog. So I've had to write in there and reference the book a lot. I just can't remember everything that I'm allergic to or I'm good with. So another thing with this is like, why did this take so long for all my doctors to figure this out? Luckily, Dr. Eicher was the person that diagnosed me with the lipedema. When I went to her, she told me about that I had mast cell. And that really is as overwhelming as it is and was. It's really it totally helped me try to go on a path to figure out what I need to eat in order to feel good. And most doctors only recognize the rare severe form called mastocytosis. So MCAS often gets ignored or misdiagnosed. More doctors are being more familiar with it, but luckily I just found a doctor that knew all of these things finally. And after she gave me the list, I came home and I did my own research. And so I found the Swiss Interest Group Histamine Intolerance List and Cookbook. So it's SIGHI, and I'll leave a link down in the show notes so you can look that up. And that's when I started cutting out my healthiest foods like avocado, citrus, bone broth. And I wasn't already eating tomatoes, but tomatoes is a big one. And then what happened? So the swelling went down as mean as my joint pain went down. My joints and my body felt less inflamed. My brain fog got a little lighter, so that was good. But still, it hasn't resolved itself. So I'm still in it. And it's been over a year and I've tried different types. So I went from keto, because keto also is known to help lipedema, which we'll go into at another time, and also into full carnivore. And now I'm going back to keto a little bit to see kind of what my body really needs. And even in full carnivore, you think, okay, what is there? But you have to worry about what kind of meats you have, how long they've been out, how they're processed. There's a lot of spices that don't do well with it. And other days, it feels like I'm just rearranging puzzle pieces that don't quite fit. And MCAS is not linear, and unfortunately, it doesn't come with a clear food plan. So what is the MCAS is not linear, and unfortunately, it doesn't come with a clear food plan. So what is the MCAS link and the lipedema link? Here's what blew my mind. MCAS also overlaps with lipedema, EDS, hypermobility POTS, and chronic fatigue syndrome. So chronic fatigue syndrome is like ME/CEF. I can't for the life of me pronounce the ME part, but I will learn for when I do that episode, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But they're all like sisters in the same dysfunctional family, really. And no one tells you all of the links. Fortunately, Dr. Eicher knew, and she told me all of these different links, so I didn't have to guess. Other than the chronic fatigue part, that was the only thing that was missing. But if I had known, like before in my last episode, if histamine intolerance, just like lipedema, was something that is genetic as well as a part of this connective issue, and it's linked to swelling and fatigue and joint issues and headaches and mystery symptoms, then I could have changed my diet a lot sooner. So again, I have a lot of things that I feel like I just didn't wake up one day and be like, oh my gosh, I feel like shit and go to the doctor and I got diagnosed. This has been happening for a long time and I lived a very healthy, active lifestyle. So that's the other thing why I think I still have a lot of energy and resentment around it, because I had put my stock in some doctors saying this is what you need to do to feel better. And I kept on feeling worse and I never got the right diagnosis. So I'm more agitated and irritated that doctors aren't trained to look for this. And that could have saved me like tens of thousands of dollars and tens of years of just this pain. And if you're listening to this, you're probably dealing with some sort of chronic pain. And it is not fun to not have days where you don't feel like doing anything. It really does take a toll, even though it's like a gradual toll typically. But how you start to live your life is a lot different. And I was always an advocate for myself, and that's why I stuck in there. But I didn't have someone cheering me on, because everyone, like even my friends that don't have this, they can't relate to what I'm going through. Again, they think that I look fine and, I'm having a little bout. Like it's hard to explain to someone really what you're going through unless they either understand you because they've gone through it or they're a medical provider that does have more knowledge about it and see patients with it. So we're going into the segment, what I'm researching and trying segment. So back when I was diagnosed, I went on that Swiss interest group website, and I found their cookbook, but it was out of print. So I searched high and low until I found one from England, and I ordered that. I also looked for mast cell friendly low histamine cookbooks online. I found a couple. To be honest, the recipes weren't that great, but I did start there and then start to integrate into some food. When that helped a little bit, so I had more energy to deal with making food and to be more complex, that's when I went into keto and to carnivore. I also found Leslyn Keith, which she works with the Lipedema Simplified. I believe that is. I'll put a link to that. It's a whole organization. But she does her own thing, and she's really interested in many things. She does a lot of manual lymph drainage and other things, but keto and carnivore and how it can help these sort of chronic illnesses. That group has been amazing. I've learned lots of things. And right now, we're really looking at some experimentations with how much salt that I need, like sodium I need to help with all these things, but also to help my immune system, because I keep on over the last year, I got pneumonia again in November. Then I had respiratory issues at the end of December, and I just had another respiratory a couple weeks ago. So I'm experimenting with what that can happen for me too. So I will leave some of the links below if you want to check those things out. So now let's do our feel-good flow for the day. So today I'm going to talk about a seated belly breathing for nervous system reset and histamine calm, which is important to do that you have some sort of histamine or central nervous reset so you can go into rest and digest, since your body's constantly in that protection fight mode. So this is a simple one, but it's really powerful. So here's how you do it. You sit upright in your chair with both feet flat on the floor. Place your hands gently on your belly and inhale slowly through your nose. Feel your belly expand, and then exhale slowly through your mouth and feel your belly soften. And just repeat this for 3 to 5 minutes or as often as you can. And as you do, just kind of visualize your whole body being supported by the chair every time you exhale. See if you can get heavier and heavier and more relaxed as you exhale. And this kind of deep, grounded breath work activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It's the rest and digest mode, and it sends your body the signal that you're safe, which keeps quiet your overactive mast cells. So a pro tip is to do this before meals or when you're triggered or anytime you feel a flare creeping in, so you can be already in this rest and digest place. So just a few minutes, mindful breathing always helps. If this episode made you feel even more seen, brought you clarity, or reminded you that you're not alone, please take a moment to rate, review, and send it to someone who needs that same reminder. You can find more tools, blog posts, and support over at donnapiper.com. And hey, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Got a question for me? Every month I do a listener coaching episode, and I'd love to hear from you. Send your questions, stories, or flare-up confessions to donna@donnapiper.com. And you just might hear your answer on the show. Until next time, dear body, I'm listening, and I am so glad that you are here.